women like me deserve a seat at the table, I decided to create my own movement called Not Without Black Women. And I think that the title alone says exactly, it addresses the very problem in a lot of spaces, especially in activism.
So during the pandemic, one of the platforms that took off has been this new platform called Clubhouse. Clubhouse is basically an audio group chat. And during this time, I had the honor and pleasure of becoming friends with my guest today. She is currently running for Congress for the state of Maryland. And that is the one and only Miss Brittany T. Oliver. Brittany and I actually met in one of the wrestling rooms where we was, all talking wrestling, and we had been following each other on social media for a while, both of us being Baltimore natives. And she's hosted a few rooms, talking about activism and equality. And I've been able to learn so much from her. So in our conversation, which I'm excited for y'all to hear, we talk about her work as an activist, her work behind the scenes in politics, and why she chose to run. And here's one of the best parts that y'all gonna learn about her. She's a wrestling fan like myself, and you'll find out who her favorite wrestler is. So we got a chance to talk about that. So ladies and gentlemen, here is my conversation with Brittany T. Oliver. All right, ladies and gentlemen, on the line today, I am honored to have a good friend of mine who, I've actually met through Clubhouse. We have been following each other on Twitter for a while, but during the pandemic, Clubhouse took off, and sure enough, we became friends, and that is the one and only Miss Brittany Oliver. Brittany, how you doing today?
I am doing amazing. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm super excited to talk with you and the audience.
Oh, thank you. Last time we was celebrating your birthday, which was like the coolest thing ever. You really saw how you brought so many people together in one Zoom setting, and you could see like all the love. And one of the things I gotta commend you on is how you was able to like make sure nobody felt left out or nobody was just sitting there. You brought everybody into the room, so I thought that was amazing.
No, thank you so much for attending. It was, I'm the pandemic, and with all that, it's been hard to kind of organize things in person. And so I felt like, let me just throw a Zoom party together and invite everybody, and I had a ton of fun, and I always make sure that no one is left behind. So I'm very, very glad that you were able to pick that up. That says a lot about me, I think.
I definitely appreciate it. You're born right here in Baltimore. Can you talk about what life like was growing up in Baltimore, which ultimately led you to your career choice?
Yeah, so I grew up in Baltimore City, was raised by a single mother. And, we lived in neighborhoods that I guess I would say underserved neighborhoods that were, that have been left behind and kind of fallen by the wayside. And my brother and I, at the time, we were very much involved in city life. At some point in time, my mother decided to move to Baltimore County, which is where I live right now. Mm-hmm. And I think that transition really helped with shaping a lot of my work in activism and public policy, and which is exactly the type of experience and background you need in order to understand and recognize inequities in various spaces. So I ended up moving to the county, and I got my start by attending Towson University, which is where I went to for undergrad, and majored in communications and PR. And then outside of that was very, very interested in community organizing. I have always been the type of person that wanted to always challenge injustices for people who look like us and just other people who, who are left out of the conversation. And so I think that my background really has helped shape that, and my love for standing up for people and uplifting voices that are left behind and that are pushed out has always been a passion of mine ever since I was a teenager.
I can appreciate that. One of the things I want to know, if you don't mind sharing, is how do you maintain like your mental health for people out there who want to be a part of this? Because one of the things I remember that stuck out on that call that really like, kind of like sat with me was when you talked about how, it's hard work and you do have to like take time to yourself. How do you maintain, and really maintain your mental health while fighting these fights?
I will be honest, and by saying that in the beginning of this work, um, because there's so much happening, and especially if you're the type of person who just want to fix things, I describe myself as like the Olivia Pope of the movement, because I always am wanting to fix things and wanting to problem solve. And I was actually doing a bad job in the beginning of prioritizing my mental health. Once I had a tragedy happen in my life where my uncle was murdered in 2016 in the same community that I grew up in as a kid in Baltimore. That caused me to pump the brakes on the work I was doing, and caused me to refocus and reevaluate how much time that I was actually, giving to my mental health. And so right now I'm at a place where it's a priority. It has to be, and it should be for each and every one of us. We cannot go to work, take care of our families, um, and have a healthy work-life balance if you do not prioritize your mental health. And I think that mental health is we're having that conversation now, with Black women in particular, who are involved in sports, and that's a topic of conversation right now. And so I think that we really need to prioritize that, because we can't get anything done if you're not okay on the inside. How can you quite possibly show up in a way that you need to, to get through the day to day? It's just not possible. You will break down, and so mental health is a top priority for me. And I'm much better at learning how to prioritize it and how to manage it better than I ever have before.
Yeah, it's definitely been something during the pandemic. Know a lot of people, including myself. You work, and then even being a content creator, there's the balance of, okay, I'm gonna try to work, but then I want to do what I want to do because I enjoy it. But sometimes you do have to step back. There's been times where I've turned off my computer and said I'm going to intentionally play this video game. I want to take a quick minute to talk about mental health. As you all know, we are living in unprecedented times, whether it's the racial pandemic or the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, I want to introduce you to Hope Again Counseling Services, where transformation begins. Hope Again provides help for children, adolescents, adults, family, and couples. So give them a call at 410-698-8442 or visit them on the web at yourhopeagain.com to book your appointment. If you are willing to believe, you will begin to achieve, and ultimately, Hope Again Counseling Services can help you receive all that is meant for you. We mentioned about Clubhouse, just to kind of shift the conversation a little bit. You're a huge wrestling fan. And, we met in one of the wrestling rooms, which I thought was cool. When did that start? We'll get back into, the fun stuff, but when did that start? Because, anybody who knows me knows that I will, have been a fan literally since birth. and we'll strike a wrestling conversation and make a wrestling reference anywhere, anytime. When did you become a fan?
So I have been, yes, let me back up. Yes, I am absolutely a wrestling fan. I think that is probably one of the most little known things about me. So I'm excited for people to know that about me. I have been watching wrestling ever since I was a little girl. Wrestling growing up in a household was something that allowed me to bond with my brother and my cousin. And so when we were not arguing and fighting and with each other and picking on each other, we were sitting down and watching wrestling. It was always a family, kind of activity to do.
Mm-hmm.
Even my grandmother was watching wrestling with us when we were young. So, I am very much still into wrestling now, even though it has changed tremendously over the years. I always describe myself as as an attitude era babe.
Mm-hmm.
That was my favorite point in time in wrestling, and it's a stress reliever. To be honest with you, it
I
really
was gonna
is.
say, because like now I'm one. So I don't know if you've been seeing on social media, but these ruthless aggression kids. For those who do not know, that's the era after the Attitude Era. The John Cena's, the Eddie Guerrero's, the Rey Mysterio's, the Brock Lesnar. The first time, these ruthless aggression kids have been very reckless. A lot saying the Attitude Era was overrated, it was toxic, and all this other stuff. Toxic, maybe, probably, absolutely. Overrated. I always say we didn't care about the 5-star matches. We cared about the storylines. And going to school, you was having your conversations. Did you see what Stone Cold Steve Austin did? Did you see what The Rock did? It wasn't about, oh yeah, they got in the ring and Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho, man, they really tore the house down. No, we wanted to know what this drama was.
Right.
What kept you into it though? Like, most people fall off and they stop. You said it's a stress reliever. Is that what kind of kept you into it all the way till now?
Yeah, it was the creativity, it was the theatrics, it was the visuals, it was provocative, it was uncut, and it provided a ton of excitement. I remember I used to stay up at night, so I had to go to school the next morning and had to be in bed at a certain time, and Raw would be on real late, and I would get up and sneak and turn the TV on so that my mother and my grandmother couldn't hear me,
Mm-hmm.
and turn the TV on and watch it to the end and wake up the next morning tired. I was tired going to school the next morning, but I'm just like, I can't wait to see the next episode the week after. So it was wrestling for me was like the soap operas
Yeah.
for me, and again, it was a really great bonding activity for my brother and my cousin, and the characters. I think that there was just so much happening during that time, and I think toxic. I'm not going to disagree, right? But it definitely has changed a lot, and for what it is right now. And it took me a little while to get used to what it is now.
Yeah, and before we get off of wrestling, because that's a whole nother show. We're gonna have to get you on the wrestling realm. We know you have quite a few busy months and years ahead of you, but we're gonna have to find time to get you on the wrestling realm. But real quick, what did it mean for you to see two Black women main event in WrestleMania this past spring?
That it meant everything to me, because Black wrestlers are severely under represented, and they do not get the credit that they deserve. They are often in the background, don't get awards until later down the line in their careers. It's being a Black wrestler is hard, and there is systemic racism that exist even in the wrestling world. Absolutely. So it meant everything to me to see that representation. It matters when I get to see someone who looks like me, and whether it be in wrestling or politics or activism. It's important for women like me to see that. So it was in such an honor to be able to witness that.
Yeah, I think it was amazing. I know, like, Bianca Belair actually won the Royal Rumble on my
Hmm.
daughter's 6th birthday, and then but she was sent to bed because she had a party. But then on WrestleMania Saturday, she watched the match and was excited and has the shirt. And we was just watching this past Friday, Rolling Loud. So it's that representation is important. Are you planning a huge celebration and perhaps you need some balloons to make your event look nice? Well, I have the perfect place for you, and that's Symphony of Balloons. Symphony of Balloons will do all events, including baby showers, weddings, birthday parties, or that special anniversary. Contact them today at 410-802-1531 or email them at symphonyofballoons@gmail.com and tell them Brian H. Waters sent you. You founded the movement Not Without Women, Not Without Black Women. When did you decide that? Because I think that's really awesome, which everybody should be following on Twitter if they haven't. But when did you? What was it that made you create this?
So what made me create Not Without Black Women really came from out of some of my frustration for what was happening with the Women's March. And when a lot of that organizing took place and dealing with, prejudice, racist people, including women that were really trying to leave Black women, women of color, the LGBTQ community from the conversation. And so instead of continuing to debate about why, women like me deserve a seat at the table, I decided to create my own movement called Not Without Black Women. And I think that the title alone says exactly, it addresses the very problem in a lot of spaces, especially in activism. So we started out having meetings and happy hours. And then eventually the women who were involved said, we want to get involved in policy. So it eventually turned into a social hour type of deal where we just kind of got together, myself and other Black women got together to sit and just, relax and kind of talk about our day, to actually working and passing legislation and organizing in the community. So it was a movement that grew over a period of time, and has been a very powerful force in Maryland politics.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, you talked about it. You said, like, it's time to make changes happen. You're running for Congress, and you're looking to do something that needs to be done. That's my words, but do something that needs to be done, and that's unseat somebody who's been in that office since I was in high school. But when did you decide, like, this was the time and this was the seat that you wanted?
So what I can say is that I was very much inspired by former President Obama. He was the first example that I saw that led me to believe that people who look like me can be president, or they can run for office too. I grew up with the assumption that people who look like me were supposed to be in the background. And so that during that time is when I started to thinking about what it meant to run for office and became more and more interested in working in politics. And I started out as a very young. I don't have any family members who have worked in politics, not that I am aware of. So this was a very first, uh, you know, kind of new ordeal in my history, in my family history. So eventually, over time, I wanted experience on what it was like for working in politics, working on political campaigns, working with politicians to get legislation passed as a citizen advocate. And I think I over a period of time, we started to see more women run in other states. And I noticed that Maryland was being left behind in terms of having women hold higher office at the federal level. Maryland is behind because currently our Maryland delegation are all men. That is not a reflection of what Maryland is. Maryland has changed since 2003. It's been almost over 20 years. The district is changing and it's time for new ideas, diversity, and leadership. And I decided that this was the time because I've been so inspired by women who have run for office around the country, and most especially us having our first woman of color vice president of the United States. I mean, it was just the right time. I've worked on Capitol Hill before. My activism and my public policy work meets at the intersection. So I have experiences on both sides of the aisle. I know how to work with community and I know how to work with government. And so this was the time. I am also a 2020 graduate of Emerge Maryland, which is a program that teaches women how to run for office. So that last year, that was when I said, this is the time. And I felt more confident. I did some work on the Biden and Harris administration. I worked for the Arizona Democrats. I was the director of communications there and helped to flip Arizona blue for Biden. And I think that a lot of people have a very complicated relationship with politics. My job is to let people know that there is hope and that we can make a difference. And politics should be shaped by the people.
Wow. That's amazing. Just because, it's something that in some cases a lot of us wasn't taught in school,
Mm-hmm.
and I went to city and we took a US government class, and
Right.
I remember taking the class and it was interesting to me, but it was a
Right.
lot of stuff that we didn't learn. And I think, one of the things that I'm excited about with the fact that you're running is the fact that you're relatable and approachable.
Mm-hmm.
So those questions, and you, like you said, just seeing somebody, for people like my daughter and her classmates, to see somebody that looks like them and can, talks like them, and like, oh, you know what, this is possible. So good luck. Now, most importantly, what can we do to get you in the office?
I'm glad you asked. There are lots of ways that people can help. So one is by number one, when you run, for office, funding is very important. This campaign is a people-powered grassroots campaign, and we depend on everyday people like us to fund it. And so we definitely are accepting donations to help us with staff, with gas to help us get around the district to talk to voters and knock on every door, to help us get our office. We are currently uh, using the resources that we have to pull together to make this happen. And so we are really going to be focused on the people with helping us get this off the ground. So donating, people can do that by going to brittanyformaryland.com. Definitely follow me on Twitter at Brittany O. Retweet, repost, not only Twitter, but Facebook and Instagram. On Instagram, you can find me at Brittany for Maryland. And so at some point in time, we will start to recruit for interns and volunteers. So there will be calls for that as well. And keep, I think lastly, keep talking about how important this is, and how historic. Today, I actually got, there's a website called Maryland Matters. And today in the article that I did with a reporter not too long ago, I was described as being the incumbent's toughest Democratic primary challenger in recent memory. Mm-hmm. And that is important. That says a lot about my work ethic. That says a lot about how far I've come. And so I really need the people to stand behind me and rally about why this is so historic and so important for our state.
How did that make you feel, if you don't mind me asking, when you read those words?
I felt, because I'm a seasoned organizer, I've been doing this work for so long, I felt really rejuvenated. It got me excited because this is the first time that an actual challenger in this district, is being taken seriously. And so I am very honored to be considered, the toughest Democratic primary challenger in a race like this, especially against an incumbent who has been in term for 10, for about 10 terms. So.
Wow, that's amazing. So yeah, we gotta make that happen. So you let the people know where they can find you. Just do it again before we get out of here. And then I got one more question, and we'll be done.
Everyone can find me and support me at www.brittanyformaryland.com.
Cool. And now the title show is called Breaking Through the Glass Ceiling. When did you break through the glass ceiling in your career when you knew, I'm really good at this and I'm living in my purpose? When was that moment for you?
I've done so much. I think when starting from or thinking about my life and my career, being a girl from the city, and when I made it to working on Capitol Hill, mm-hmm. advocating for women's issues, lobbying. I worked on spearheading and passing the Women's Health Protection Act and supported Christine Blasey Ford, who was in if everyone remembers when Brett Kavanaugh was being confirmed to the Supreme Court, and how impactfully, damaging that was for survivors and advocates of ending sexual assault. When I did the work that I did on Capitol Hill and all the people that I met and the network I was able to build from it, I think that was like one of the highlights of my time. And it was tough work, it was hard work, but I would do it all over again if I had to. And that's why I'm running. That's why I'm running for Congress.
Well, certainly, Brittany, I'm super proud and super excited. Y'all make sure y'all donate. I actually just did during this call and will continue to do so. I have a great feeling. Will this be this November? So
my the primary is going to be in June.
Okay.
Yeah. So I started early because my current congressman has been in his seat for so long.
Mm-hmm.
I decided to start out early so I can connect with the community and really, really sell myself and tell people about why I should be and will be elected to the seat.
Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen. Brittany, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and invite me back anytime.
Awesome. Will do. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as always, I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. I'm very excited for Brittany, as I said, and I'm looking forward to supporting her as she gets ready to take her seat at Congress and make this world a better place. Representation is important, so please support her. Make sure you follow her on all social media platforms. Make sure y'all subscribe to the podcast. Keep updated each and every week with new guests, as well as some uncomfortable conversations on trending topics, folks. So until the next time, I'm Brian H. Waters. Make sure you do not let anyone set up a ceiling that you can't break through. This podcast is brought to you by B. Waters Productions, and the music is produced by Hypno_Beats.